Okay, so we're going to look at narration, which is something that we're all familiar with. But we're just going to take a closer look so we can break it down um, and see how it's structured. So, narration is basically a story. I don't know how else to put it. It's rather simple. It's like I am telling you this story, and this is something that we do every day. We narrate stories every single day, whether we are aware of it or not. So you come home from work and you see your family, and you have something to tell them. Something happened, to you, to somebody else, and now you're going to narrate the story to them. So, and of course, other people do this to us also. So I think this just shows us that humans are storytellers. We infuse, our, do you know what happened last night with details, dialogue. Oh, and she said this. We put action into it. We have pauses. We can be quite dramatic in our storytelling. So think about that. Think about the stories that you've told recently. And then we're going to apply it to more formal narration. Now, this is the narration that happens on paper, where the story now gets to be worked on and timed correctly, and the details are thought over, and the dialogue is thought over. So it's something that we're all familiar with, but then we make it more formal and more thought about. So, what is narration? Well, we have, and you'll notice this, the stories have three basic elements. You have the plot, that's basically what is happening, right? This happens, that happens, then after that, this happens. Okay, so basically, plot is what happens. Most stories, a lot of stories, they follow the chronological order: beginning, middle, end. Right? The beginning is where, you know, let me tell you what happened to me yesterday, and then you start building up the details, and then the end of the story, you're concluding the action. So a lot of times narrations will follow that easy chronological order. Not all of them, though. Sometimes stories, narrations are told in a flashback or out of sequence to make it more interesting. It doesn't matter. However, you want to, present your narration, or however it is something that you're reading. It's just a way to engage people in the story. So that's plot. And we have the point of view. With narration, the point of view is oftentimes told in the I, the first person. I did this, I did that. Sometimes narration is told in the third person. So you see some of the examples here. Um, Third person, one of the captains of the high school football team had something big he wanted to tell the other players. That is in third person. It still is a narrative story, but it could just as easily say, when I was captain of the high school football team, I had something I wanted to tell the other players. Okay, so first person point of view. And then the purpose. So we'll look a little bit more closely at this. Why is this story being written? And that is what is important with narration, as opposed to maybe the daily little stories that we tell each other every day. A narrative that's written out has more of a purpose. The purpose is to maybe, you can get, somebody wants to try to convince you of something, so they tell you a story that involves them. Maybe they want to be influential. The one example is Malcolm X's prison studies, and he's just talking about really learning how to read, basically learning how to read. It's his narrative, and how he increased his vocabulary when he was in prison. Okay, well, what's his purpose? Maybe his purpose is he wants to be informative, he wants to influence other people, he wants to, you know, show that even if you, have committed a crime, that you can still turn your life around. So there's an overall kind of purpose for why the narrator is telling this story. And you want to try to connect to a more human level. So everybody has their own individual stories, right, to tell. But you're looking kind of like for this theme. So I think narration definitely has a connecting values with humans. Okay, here is my story. This is my purpose for telling you my story. And, the person reading it or listening to it, can start making that human connection. So, to get a little bit more deeper into that, writing a narrative is you usually are retelling a story or experience of what has happened to you. And here's the interesting part about narratives. It's not as if you're in a court of law and you have to tell the truth and the whole truth. Narration often has details that are added, things that are taken out. Sometimes things are embellished to make it more interesting. So it's more or less a true story or based on a true story. I guess we can say something like that. And again, we're looking at this. You're trying to share something with the reader. It's not just I got up this morning, then I brushed my teeth, then I got dressed and I went to work. No, that's not what a narration is, right? A narration is kind of focused around something important that needs to be shared and connected with the readers or the listeners. So this is overall. A narrative is told from somebody's point of view, a particular point of view. It has a purpose. There is a reason for it. It's not a Match.com ad. I like to walk on the beach and, no, you have this is what happened to me and this is, what I learned or what the outcome was, or watch out, don't do this, or whatever it is. It has, again, some kind of focal point. Working with details, this is important because that's what brings the writing alive. For anything, that's what brings the writing alive, but in particular when you're writing a narrative, all those little details really help the reader visualize stuff that's happening. Again, continuing to work on things like this, detail writing using verbs that are alive and active always is engaging to the reader. Narratives have conflicts because that's it's not a story. It's a boring story if you say this is what I did today and nothing really interesting happened, right? You need to have some kind of conflict in there that helps it out. You will also notice that dialogue can be used effectively. And what I want to focus on for this module is the use of description and details. You can use that in any kind of writing, but in particular in a narrative, and it really helps bring the story alive. Okay, thank you.